I'm going to call this one people walking away from the fitness industry or social media, whatever you want to call it. Um, so I saw a post from someone who is popular, and they made a point about how you don't see a lot of personal trainers over the age of 30. And that's a pretty good point. When you think about it, most personal trainers are in their 20s. You see some in their early 30s, but you don't see a lot of them in 40s and 50s. And that's an interesting thing. Why is that? Because people walk away because they realize they can make more money working at Starbucks or Walmart than you can as a personal trainer. Similarly, what triggered this whole thing is a friend of mine decided to shut down all of his social media. He deleted his Instagram and his YouTube and everything. And I'm very disappointed by that, but I completely understand why he did it. As you know, I asked him, like, why are you doing this? And he says, because when you help people for free, or you help people for very, very low cost, they still find a way to take advantage of you. And he's right. So, I'm going to share more on this, but, he pointed out there's all these people, these anonymous people message him and ask him questions, and he answers their questions, but then they never hire him to coach them. Instead, they go hire some other person. And, he sees them commenting on this other person's posts, or, even sharing stuff on their own profile and stuff like that about them working with a certain coach, because this coach is popular, right? So, you'll spend money on the Carbon Diet app or the RP app, but, you won't spend that same amount of money on a person who has actually invested time into you. Yeah. And it's a shitty thing. And so it's like, similarly, I was having a conversation with Dr. Scott Stevenson, who's wonderful. If you guys don't follow Fortitude Training, and you should go buy his book, Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach. Dr. Scott Stevenson is absolutely wonderful. He's one of the kindest people I've ever met in my entire life. And Dr. Scott Stevenson was talking to me about just things in general, and he commented about how he just tries to do his part when he answers all these people. But it's interesting. All these anonymous people ask you questions, you answer their questions, and they never even say thank you. It's like, it would take you 2 seconds to write back, "Hey, thank you," whenever you read my response or Scott's response. You ask a question, someone answers your question. It takes nothing. You've already spent the time reading the response. You could just say thank you. But people don't do that. And, like I said about this friend of mine who decided to shut everything down, he's absolutely right. When you help people, they take advantage of you. There are people that I thought were my friend, even people I coached, athletes of mine. I have this bad habit of becoming friends with my athletes. I don't do a good job of separating things. This whole thing that it's just business and it's just, this is personal, but this is business. No, not for me. Not for me ever. Every single one of my athletes, I become friends with them, and I care very, very much about what happens to them. I'm heartbroken when my athletes get injured. I had a football player that I was working with, and he tore his hamstring at the NFL Combine, and I was absolutely devastated. I think I was more upset than he was. I had another football player I was working with, and he took a really bad hit, and it just destroyed his shoulder. I was so distraught over this. He took it in stride. He was really good about it. But for me, I was just absolutely, it was a career-ending injury. And he was very, very calm about it and very rational. I was devastated that he had this career-ending injury. And there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, it's the nature of sport. You're playing football. Bones break. You get hit the wrong way. Things happen. But for me, I get very emotionally attached to my athletes. They're my friends. They're my family. And unfortunately, sometimes you'll have an athlete. It's not all of them. Most of my athletes are fantastic. I would tell you 99% of my athletes are wonderful people. Every once in a while, they end up with one who, pulls some weird stunt and tries to take advantage of you. And then it's a weird thing, because it's like, why would you do that? Like, I've done nothing but help you. And then you would lie to me and try to get something from me, but had you just been honest and asked, I would have given it to you. So, it's just a weird thing whenever people do stuff like that. And so I understand. I understand why people are walking away, and I'm seeing more and more of it all the time. In fact, in the last, I don't know, I'll say the month, I've had multiple people send me messages on IG and be like, "Hey man, I just wanted to say thank you before I delete all my stuff." People are writing me thank you, and then they delete their account. And these are coaches. These are other coaches. These aren't athletes that I coach. These are other coaches, and other coaches are reaching out to me, telling me that they are getting off of social media, or other coaches contacting me and telling me that they're getting out of coaching. They're not going to do it anymore. And I see this all the time, and I realize that I'm weird because I'm still doing this. And I really probably should just move on to something else with my life. But I try very hard to give back. I only stopped posting videos on YouTube because people asked me to stop posting videos. But otherwise, if you guys follow me on IG, I post stuff on IG every single day. Tons of stuff on IG every single day. My stories are just filled with, everything I can possibly think of to share with you, whether it's injuries or it's supplements or it's training. I just, health, I try very hard to help people. And so all I'm expressing here is not even that I'm complaining about my situation, but it's, I'm really bummed out that this friend of mine decided to delete his stuff, because you guys know this. The popular people out there with millions of followers, like, they post the shittiest stuff. It's like, take creatine, eat protein. Thanks. Like, that is the most useless thing. Everyone already fucking knows that, but somehow you have 3.2 million followers because you tell people to take creatine. Meanwhile, this friend of mine had less than 1,000 followers, and he's posting amazing stuff on there about like dopamine signaling and restoring your receptors. After using stimulants, how to come off of caffeine and not have side effects. He's sharing stuff about how to recover from your training faster, and how to recover from injuries, and all kinds of really amazingly good stuff. He's one of the smartest people that I know out there, and he's constantly sharing things with people that are very high level pieces of information that are extremely useful. That's why I followed him. And I always learn new things from him. Every time he posts, I learn something new. I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that the HT2A receptor worked like that, or something. It's something always very, very interesting. Whether it's GABAergic signaling or something like that. And yet he had like less than 1,000 followers, and like, this person putting out very high quality information has hardly any followers. This person over here, who's clearly on steroids despite the fact that they claim natty, they're telling you to take creatine. And all I can assume is the reason he has less than 1,000 followers is because he actually is natty. Like, so he doesn't have an impressive physique, just like me. Like, I don't have an impressive physique. No one has ever messaged me and be like, dude, I want to look like you someday. Because, like, I'm not fucking Ronnie Coleman. And so that's the only reason I can think of why the people who are popular, is because you guys look at them and you think you can be like them. Like, oh, I'm going to be just like Mike O'Hearn, or I'm going to be just like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or, what's the other popular person? I can't even think of these people anymore. Joey Swoll, Thomas DeLauer. They all have like millions of followers, and the information they put out is just the same old shit. Be sure to eat protein, take creatine. Okay. Meanwhile, this other person who doesn't have an impressive physique, they have a very impressive physique for someone who is not using drugs, and they have impressive lifts for someone who's not using drugs, but they're putting out very high quality information. And anyways, the point being, I think it's sad that people are walking away, and I'm glad that people like Scott Stevenson stick around, but kind of bums me out to hear him say the same thing, that people message him, they ask questions, he answers their questions, and they don't even take the time to say thank you. And so this friend of mine pointing out that, hey, whenever you help people, they still find a way to take advantage of you. And it's like, yeah. And I think that's why so many people, good coaches, walk away from this. They just get fed up. They just have enough. I mean, even my friend Kier is like, he's now doing like business stuff. Like, he's like, fuck it, I don't want to do this coaching shit anymore. And I get it. Like, it makes sense to me. So, it's just kind of a weird thing. There's a lot of people out there who are very competent. They have really good quality information, and there's no reward in it. And because that's, like I said before in previous videos and previous posts, it used to be that if you provided value, the money would follow. But that's not where we live today. Today we live in a society where it's about attention. So if you have more attention, the money follows. So it doesn't really matter if the value is zero. The value can just be, take creatine. But if you have 1 million followers, the money follows, right? Versus someone providing something very high value, but they only have 1,000 followers, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, no one cares. And people don't value your work anymore. That's what it comes down to. And when you try to help people, they don't value that either. They're more impressed with somebody that has, 100,000 followers, or someone that talks like they're really impressive, instead of people who are honest. So, honesty, transparency, authenticity, information, value, those things they're not worthy of money. What's worthy of money is you telling people that you're natty, creating controversy, making videos attacking other people, making posts attacking other people, being hostile, talking down to people. It always impresses me. Layne Norton's followers amaze me. They continue to follow him despite the fact that in the comment section he calls them all kinds of names and tells them how stupid they are and talks down to them, and they eat it up. Same thing for like Paul Carter. Paul Carter is like so unbelievably toxic, and his comment section is always filled, and he responds and argues with everyone, and people eat it up. They continue to follow him. And I find that to be very interesting. I guess that's the way things work now. And it makes sense to me why so many people, the good people, are walking away. And, I just want you to think about that for a bit. If all the good people walk away, what are you going to be left with?